Red legacy. The click of my laptop closing at 11:47 p.m. should have felt victorious. I had just saved Horizon Tech's biggest client, generating over $2 million in revenue with a single algorithm I'd coded in 3 sleepless days. But as I sat in my empty Chicago office, staring at the bonus notification of $82,000, all I could think about was the silence on my phone. Today was my 20th birthday. Not a single call, text, or email from my family. I scrolled through social media with trembling fingers, a habit I'd developed to torture myself with glimpses of the life I'd never been invited to join. There it was, posted 4 hours ago while I was debugging code that would make my family's company millions. A photo of my brother Miles, 29 and golden as always, surrounded by champagne glasses and congratulations. My father Richard held him close, both men beaming in identical $1,000 suits. My mother Claudia dabbed at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, the picture of maternal pride. Celebrating our shining star, the Moore legacy continues to soar. Read my father's caption, accompanied by dozens of heart emojis from relatives I barely knew. The timestamp crushed me more than the image itself. While I had been hunched over my computer, solving problems that would fund their lifestyle for years, they had been toasting Miles's latest promotion at Anderson & Partners. A law firm my father's connections had secured him entry to straight out of Harvard. My phone buzzed. Mom, finally. Jolia, darling. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Claudia's voice dripped with the artificial sweetness she used when she needed something. Listen, honey, we're planning the most gorgeous celebration for Miles and Jessica's engagement next month. You know how talented you are with organizing things. Could you handle the venue booking? We're thinking the Ritz-Carlton ballroom. I stared at my reflection in the dark window. 20 years old today. Alone in an office building while my family celebrated my brother without a second thought about me. Mom, I said quietly, today is my birthday. A pause stretched between us like a chasm. Oh! Of course, darling. With all the excitement about Miles's wonderful news, it just slipped my mind. You understand, don't you? Family has to support family. I understood all right. I understood that in the Moore family hierarchy, I ranked somewhere below their accountant. The engagement party, Jolia. Can we count on you? She continued without missing a beat. I looked at my bonus notification again. $82,000 earned through my own brilliance, my own sacrifice, my own endless nights. For the first time in my life, I felt something shift inside me, like a lock clicking open. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. The next 4 days passed in a blur of work and avoidance. I ignored 17 calls from various family members, letting them pile up like evidence of something I wasn't quite ready to name yet. On Thursday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number that made my blood freeze. It was a screenshot of a family group chat I'd accidentally been added to. My mother had clearly meant to message everyone except me, but her technology skills had never been her strength. Richard, Jolia should contribute significantly to Miles's engagement gift. At least $20,000. Claudia, the girl just got a massive bonus. It's time she supported the family properly. Miles, finally, she owes us after all we've done for her. But it was the next message that shattered something inside me completely. Claudia had written my name as Quinn instead of Jolia. After 20 years, my own mother couldn't even be bothered to spell my name correctly when discussing my money. I screenshot the conversation and sat in my car in the Horizon Tech parking lot, hands shaking as I reread their casual dismissal of me as a person. I was nothing more than a bank account to them. A convenient source of funding for Miles's perfect life. My phone rang. Miles. Hey, Jules, he said, using the nickname he'd given me when I was 7 and desperate for his attention. Mom said you were being difficult about the engagement party. Difficult. The word tasted bitter. Is that what we're calling it? Look, I know you're busy with your tech stuff, but this is important. Jessica's parents are flying in from California. We need this to be perfect. My tech stuff. I almost laughed. Miles, do you have any idea what I do for a living? A pause. Something with computers, right? 20 years of my life crystallized into that moment. My brother, the golden child, the heir to everything my parents valued, didn't even know that I was the lead software architect for one of Chicago's fastest-growing technology companies. That I made more money than he did. That I had been featured on the cover of Tech Innovation magazine 3 months ago. Never mind, I said. I have to go. That evening, I found myself sitting across from Eleanor Vance, my elderly neighbor who had become more of a grandmother to me than my own family had ever been. Eleanor was 73, silver-haired, and sharp enough to cut glass. She lived in a modest apartment but carried herself like the Wall Street executive she had once been. You look like you've swallowed something particularly unpleasant, she observed, pouring us both tea from her antique china set. I told her everything. The birthday. The group chat. The casual way my family treated me like their personal ATM while celebrating Miles for accomplishments that paled in comparison to mine. Eleanor listened without judgment, her intelligent eyes never leaving my face. When I finished, She reached across the table and took my hands in hers. Some parents, she said slowly, never truly see their children because they're too busy looking at themselves. They mistake favoritism for love and control for care. She squeezed my hands gently. Your worth isn't determined by their inability to recognize it, dear. It's determined by what you choose to do with the gifts you've been given. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I opened my laptop and began searching for lakefront properties in Michigan. I found it on the third page of listings, a 4-bedroom house with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. The wraparound deck seemed to stretch endlessly toward the horizon. The price was $365,000. I called the realtor immediately. I'd like to see it today, I said. 2 hours later, I stood on that deck, breathing in the clean air and listening to the gentle lap of waves against the shore. The house felt like freedom itself, like a sanctuary I hadn't known I'd been searching for. This is beautiful property, the realtor said. Are you planning to bring your family to see it? I watched a sailboat drift across the lake, its white sail bright against the blue water. No, I said quietly, this is mine. I put down a cash deposit of $50,000 that afternoon. The closing took 3 weeks. 3 weeks during which my family called incessantly, demanding to know my decision about the engagement party, about the gift, about my responsibilities to the Moore name. I let every call go to voicemail. When I finally had the keys in my hand, I spent the first weekend alone in my new house, hanging photographs on the walls. Pictures of my college graduation, where Eleanor had been the only family member present. Photos of my team celebrating the Westfield campaign success. The magazine cover featuring my face alongside the headline 20 under 25 Tech's Rising Stars. I created a room I privately called the birthday suite, filled with evidence of every achievement my family had ignored or forgotten. On Sunday evening, I posted a single photograph on social media, me barefoot on the deck, holding a glass of wine, with the lake stretching endlessly behind me. The caption was simple: celebrating at my new lake house. The best birthday gift I ever gave myself. My phone exploded within minutes. 17 missed calls from my mother, 32 text messages. Miles left 6 voicemails in 15 minutes, each more frantic than the last. I turned off my phone and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Monday morning brought consequences I hadn't fully anticipated. My father appeared at Horizon Tech at exactly 9 a.m., his face thunderous with the kind of rage usually reserved for business rivals. Where did you get the money for a house? He demanded, cornering me in the hallway outside my office. I earned it, I replied calmly, though my heart was hammering. Don't be flippant with me, Julia. Your mother hasn't slept in days. You're tearing this family apart over a birthday party. I looked at him steadily. This isn't about a party, Dad. This is about 20 years of being invisible. Invisible? His voice rose, drawing stares from my coworkers. We've given you everything. Education, opportunities, a place in this family. A place? I almost laughed. What place? The place where I get to watch Miles be celebrated for showing up while I work myself to death for scraps of attention? Richard's face grew red. Miles is building something lasting. He's carrying on the Moore legacy. All you do is play with computers. The words hit me like a physical blow, but instead of crumbling, I felt something crystallize inside me. Miles carries on the Moore legacy by living off trust funds and family connections. I built my own. My phone buzzed with an emergency alert from our biggest client. Crisis, revenue at risk. I looked at my father and felt absolutely nothing. I have to save someone's business now, I said. Again. I walked into my office and closed the door, leaving him standing in the hallway. The crisis took me 6 hours to resolve, 6 hours of intense coding and client management that resulted in saving a $2 million account. When I emerged from my office, exhausted but victorious, I found Lawrence Chen, Horizon Tech's CEO, waiting with a bottle of champagne. Outstanding work, he said. The client is ecstatic. The board wants to fast-track your promotion to senior director. I thought about Miles's promotion party, about the champagne and congratulations he'd received for achievements that barely registered compared to what I'd just accomplished. Thank you, I said simply. That evening, I invited Jen, my closest friend and colleague, to the lakehouse. She arrived with takeout Chinese food and a bottle of wine, her eyes wide as she took in the space I'd created. This is incredible, she breathed, walking through each room. UA. We sat on the deck as darkness fell, sharing stories and watching stars reflect on the water. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. Your family has been calling the office all week, Jen mentioned carefully. They seem pretty upset. I sipped my wine, considering. They're upset that their bank account has developed opinions. Jen laughed, but her expression grew serious. Are you okay, though? Really okay? I thought about the question honestly. I'm scared, I admitted. But I'm also more myself than I've ever been. 3 days later, my mother arrived unannounced at the lake house. I found her on the front porch, clutching a casserole dish and looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "May I come in?" she asked quietly. I led her to the kitchen, where she set down the dish and looked around with obvious amazement. "It's beautiful, Julia. Really beautiful." "Thank you." We sat at my kitchen table, two women who shared DNA but had never really known each other. Claudia twisted her hands in her lap, a gesture I recognized as nervousness. "I brought carrot cake," she said finally. "You always loved carrot cake when you were little." The fact that she remembered surprised me. I still do. "I owe you an apology," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Several apologies, actually. I've been thinking about what you said, about being invisible. I went through some old photo albums." She pulled out her phone, scrolling to a picture that made my breath catch. It was from my high school graduation, 6 years ago. The photo showed our family of 4, but I was barely visible, half cut out of the frame while Miles dominated the center. "I have dozens of photos like this," she continued softly, "and I never noticed. I never noticed that I was erasing me." I finished gently. She nodded, tears starting to fall. "I don't know how to fix 20 years of getting it wrong." I looked at this woman who had given birth to me but had never really seen me, and felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness exactly, but the possibility of it. "Maybe we start with now," I said. Over the following months, things changed slowly. Miles began texting me directly instead of going through our parents. He asked about my work, actually listened to the answers, and even attended one of my speaking engagements at a tech conference. Richard remained distant, but Claudia made genuine efforts to understand my life and career. The engagement party happened without my financial contribution or organizational help. I wasn't invited, and for the first time, that felt like a gift rather than a rejection. 1 year later, I hosted my own celebration at the lakehouse for my 21st birthday. Jen came, along with several colleagues who had become genuine friends. Eleanor brought homemade cookies and stories from her Wall Street days. Lawrence Chen arrived with a bottle of expensive champagne to celebrate my promotion to senior director, making me the youngest person to hold that position in Horizon Tech's history. As the evening wound down, I stood on my deck looking out at the lake that had become my symbol of freedom. My phone buzzed with a text from Miles. "Happy birthday, Jules. Proud of you." It was the first time he'd ever said that to me. I thought about the scared, invisible girl I'd been a year ago, desperate for crumbs of recognition from people who couldn't see past their own reflections. I thought about the woman I'd become, successful, independent, surrounded by people who valued me for who I was rather than what I could provide them. Eleanor found me on the deck, wrapping a shawl around my shoulders against the evening chill. "Regrets?" she asked. I considered the question carefully. About buying this house? About setting boundaries? About demanding to be seen? I shook my head. "None at all." "And your family?" I watched the moonlight dance on the water. "I'm learning that loving someone and accepting their limitations aren't mutually exclusive. They're trying now. That's more than I ever expected." Eleanor squeezed my shoulder. "You've learned the most important lesson of all, dear. That your worth doesn't depend on other people's ability to recognize it." Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my living room, surrounded by birthday cards and gifts from people who truly knew me. The silence wasn't lonely anymore, it was peaceful. My laptop chimed with an email from a headhunter at a Silicon Valley startup, offering me a position that would triple my salary and put me on track to become a chief technology officer before I turned 25. The opportunity was everything I'd worked toward, everything I dreamed of. I smiled and closed the laptop without responding. Tomorrow I would consider it carefully, weigh my options, make a decision based on what I wanted, rather than what others expected of me. For tonight, I was exactly where I belonged. In the house I'd bought myself, in the life I'd built from nothing but determination and self-respect. Surrounded by evidence that I had always been worthy of love and recognition. The Moore family had never seen their daughter clearly, but that no longer mattered. I had learned to see myself, and that made all the difference. Outside my windows, Lake Michigan stretched endlessly toward the horizon, reflecting stars I was finally free to reach for.